resistance is just a natural part of the creation process. So we don't need to truly make an enemy out of it, even though I always say resistance is the enemy, just as like a cute catchphrase so you understand like what's going on. But truly, like it's just a part of the process. And the better you are at navigating, untangling, dealing with, and resolving your own personal resistance, the more successful you're going to be in achieving your goals and living your best life. Hello, hello. Welcome back to another epic episode of Vibin It. Today might be slightly, tiny bit shorter because Lindsay has to go pick up her kiddo from school, which we fully support the mom mode. So, we're just going to have an epic, slightly shorter episode for you guys today. And something that's been on my mind that's kind of inspiring today's topic is the topic of resistance, which we've touched on before on the show, but resistance as it pertains to manifesting, and specifically what causes us to go into different states of resistance. And we're going to talk about some things to help you basically avoid doing that. So you don't have to get stuck in resistance in the first place, so that your energy can be flowing and your manifestations can be happening. Because for lack of a better terminology and phrasing, resistance is pretty much the enemy when it comes to manifestation. So let's give some examples, Linz. How can resistance show up and how can it block people's manifestations? I'll go first and then you can say some that you've seen
I
or
got
that you felt. Yes. So, common example, let's say you want to manifest a loving partnership. You're feeling ready to meet your soulmate, but a part of you is freaking not on board the love train because it is still traumatized from the last quote unquote failed relationship and you're just terrified. So, yes, consciously you may want that, but subconsciously you're like, no, I don't want to love again. Love is so painful, blah, 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 whatever. That's a pretty common example. Or let's say, you are wanting to create some more financial wealth in your life, but you have some limiting narratives as to what that's going to mean for you. So if you think that being wealthy is going to create more problems in your life, or it's going to cause friends and family to use you, or if you think X, Y, and Z speculation, you're going to have internal resistance to the thing that you think you want. Or what we don't talk about a lot is that you can have resistance to where you are, which is just as bad as resisting what you want. So if you're in a state of resistance to your current reality and your current experiences, you're energetically doing the same thing as resisting what you want. Basically, your energy is closed, it's shut down, it's stuck, and your blessings and manifestations cannot be magnetized to you or created through you. So basically, it's not that resistance in and of itself is a bad thing, right? Like we need resistance to train our muscles at the gym to grow. Like resistance can be a good thing in certain contexts. Context. I was going to say context. But when it comes to manifestation, as a general rule of thumb, being in a state of resistance is going to be an energy of closedness, of being blocked, of being stuck. So Linz, what are some of your like common examples that you can give so people can be like, oh yeah, I've been there, done that?
Well, I mean, I have examples that I could give. I also have examples that I see every day.
Yeah, give us a couple from each.
What I know about the nature of our minds in general, usually it comes up as a big one is overwhelm, just feeling like I can't do one more thing. I cannot add one more thing to my plate. It's too much. I'm just going to shut down and veg out. Fight or flight. That is either freeze or flight. I don't know which one it is, but it could be both. And overwhelm and just this just the voice of the limits are louder than the voice of possibility, right? The voice of what's keeping you safe and quote comfortable, which is, just your subconscious trying to keep you alive. Let's just be real and clear when I say, like, it's not anything against you. It's not working against you. It doesn't know to do that. It doesn't want to do that. It just wants to keep you where it always knows you are safe. And where you are is safe. It's not comfortable, but it doesn't need to be. It's actually probably not going to be comfortable. It doesn't need to be comfortable. It doesn't need to be expansive. It doesn't need to be exciting. It needs to keep you breathing. And so if there's anything in your subconscious that is reinforcing that idea that where you are, although uncomfortable, maybe a little bit stuck, is keeping you alive, then that's just what's going to keep happening. And when you try to venture outside of that and get into the more exciting, sparkly possibilities of what you could step into, your subconscious throws up all kinds of flags like, hold the phone here. You told me that, we learned that love was dangerous. We learned that once you get money, you just lose it and you have to work really, really hard to get it. And it's not sustainable unless it's really hard. This is what we know. How dare you think that it could be easy? How dare you think that you could be, at your highest potential? But it really is just fear. It's just fear of the subconscious, because anything unknown and anything it knows that's dangerous is actually the same level of fear. The fear of the unknown and the fear of something that we actually know is danger feels the same sometimes to your subconscious. And so it's going to try to pull you back. And that shows up all kinds of ways, like we just mentioned: frustration, overwhelm, stress, that feeling of like shutting down or burning out, or just repeating, and that record that keeps going around and around in your head of like reasons why it's a bad idea, even though consciously it's a fantastic idea, and it is the idea. It is the only idea.
This is why every single new thing you try to do feels scary, because your subconscious mind literally just registers it as danger. New equals danger, even if that's not necessarily the truth of the situation or of the trajectory or of your life. That's how it's going to feel, which is important to know, because then you can normalize your fear and not let it stop you.
Yeah, there's a lot of power in knowing why you feel the way you do. Like, we don't give that enough credit. We do on the show, but like the collective doesn't really you don't give yourselves enough credit for knowing why you feel the way you do. There's so much freedom in that. There's so much empowerment in knowing, like, okay, it's not because I'm an idiot. It's not because I can't. It's not because I'm somehow below where I need to be or unworthy in any way. It's just my subconscious that knows what it knows and is trying to keep me alive. Okay, well, what if I could teach my subconscious what would keep me safe and what would keep me comfortable? And oh, by the way, I might actually be happy and enjoy my life on the way to do it. And a lot of that most of that involves coming up against resistance, navigating through it, coming up against resistance again, navigating through it, and so on and so forth. Like, this fallacy that we only do it once is one that I have as well. I kind of believed that for a really long time. Like, oh, I already did it. I don't want to do it again. But it's just part of it,
Yeah, resistance is just a natural part of the creation process. So we don't need to truly make an enemy out of it, even though I always say resistance is the enemy, just as like a cute catchphrase so you understand like what's going on. But truly, like, it's just a part of the process. And the better you are at navigating, untangling, dealing with, and resolving your own personal resistance, the more successful you're going to be in achieving your goals and living your best life. Because people who are living at the top, the pinnacle, getting looks like from the outside, they're getting what they want, they're feeling good, they're creating their life by design. These people really understand how to work with and work through resistance. And to touch on or add to Lindsay's point earlier about how it's really beneficial to understand why we're feeling certain ways, it's also beneficial to understand that your resistance is there for a valid reason. So you have to go into working with your resistance, treating it with validity, with openness, with compassion, with understanding. Because if you're trying to resolve your resistance with an attitude of, oh, this is the one thing holding me back from my manifestation, and it's so annoying that I'm in resistance, and this is wrong, and I shouldn't be doing this, and I need to stop doing this, you're just creating more resistance by resisting your resistance.
In just that little play that you just get, that example, you made a tiny speck of resistance become, I was watching the bricks like go on top of each other in this big wall. Like, now it's a big wall, and that was just pretend. We were just messing. We were just like saying it. Imagine what it feels like when you kind of reinforce, oh, if only I could, if only I could, if only I could. There's another load of weight, onto that resistance. So, this is about just lessening that a little bit and loosening up the tangles so that you can begin to navigate through it.
Yeah, and what helps me is I like to think of my resistance as like a misinformed but well-intentioned friend. If a part of me is in resistance to what I want, it has a good reason for feeling the way that it does. It has valid points for like maybe why it thinks that I shouldn't have that thing or go in that direction, or why where we are now is bad. And I'm open to hearing it out and understanding that. And in that open state of compassion and curiosity, it's way easier to negotiate with your resistance or deal with it directly or hear it out or create some sort of resolve, as opposed to, oh, this is so annoying that this is even here. Like, if you're annoyed, you already lost the game of resistance. You don't have to like it, but you have to be open to it, and you have to treat it as valid in order to be able to move forward with it and create resolve. So, with that being said, kind of how we got on this topic today was this morning I was writing in my book that has the longest chapter of all time, which I've been working on forever, which you guys have heard about on the show, Why the Law of Attraction Works for Some People, but Not You. And it's basically a book all about resistance. And so I'm going through and rewriting this book for like the fourth time, because this book is like crazy how it's coming to fruition. But basically, this morning I was working on a chapter about like how we resist and why we resist. So, what I really want to dive into is just a couple of the ways that came through when I was writing, like essentially like downloads to why we resist and how we get stuck in resistance. So, I'm just going to go through the three, and Lindsay and I will give our helpful perspectives, and hopefully, this can really help you guys. So, the first one that came to me that I noticed is like the biggest reason why we resist in so many ways, right? We resist our pain, we resist feeling how we feel. We resist uncomfortable truths. We resist what's best for us sometimes. We resist change. We resist taking risks that are necessary in order to get to where we want to go. The list goes on, right? A million out of, a million times pretty much, it's because we are quote unquote allergic to being uncomfortable. That's what I'm calling it. We are allergic to being uncomfortable. We are not willing to be uncomfortable. And worse, we make it wrong when we are uncomfortable. And then we're just like resisting the resistance again. It comes back to that theme of like adding more stuckness to the already stuck energy. Like, how many times have we not been willing to face our pain or our feelings or go for what we want because we don't want to get uncomfortable? Raise your hand.
Well,
Give us an amen if that's been true, because
even
that's
if
been
you
true for me a
even if you
million
don't
times.
consciously know that's why, I mean, sometimes thinking about having what you want is a scary thought, and there are reasons, whether or not you're acknowledging them, why you don't want that. Part of you doesn't, but at the same time, you're uncomfortable now. Like, that's the funny thing about this situation.
Right.
Is like, if you don't have what you want, how uncomfortable does that feel to to constantly keep going and trying and doing and thinking and, doing mindset work and thinking, well, that didn't work. Let me try this. Oh, I'm burned out. Let me take a break. Okay, now I'm back at it and I'm sparkly and excited again. Oh, now I have to start back over because this sucks again. How uncomfortable does that feel when most of the time it's because there's a piece of resistance that you're just not acknowledging or working through or aware of, whatever the case may be. But it is true. You're absolutely right. It's because we don't want to get uncomfortable, but you're already you're already uncomfortable. I know
Yeah.
how that feels.
I
It's
think that's a
uncomfortable.
helpful perspective to realize, I'm already uncomfortable.
I was
So
watching Downton Abbey
what's so bad
yesterday.
about that?
I started getting into Downton Abbey again because I'm trying to catch up, and we watched the whole series, and then a movie came out and never watched it, and now there's a whole new movie and we haven't watched that. So we were trying to like catch up on the last season. And Mary, for all my Downton fans, Kelsey, you watch Downton? You should. It's a very sleepy, beautiful little drama. But it makes you feel really fancy when you can't help but talk like this forever. But she breaks up with this amazing guy because her previous husband died in a car crash, and her new beau is a race car driver. Spoilers ahead.
Ooh.
Turn it off. Okay. If you don't want any spoilers. So she breaks up with him, and she says it's because they're just not right for each other and all these things. And, you know, I don't want to be heartbroken if anything happens. And I'm screaming at the TV like, you just broke your own heart. What are you talking about? You just broke your own heart
at its finest.
Trying not to be heartbroken. She breaks her own heart. Like, it's just so fun. And we do that all the time, don't we? And instead of going for what we want because we're afraid to be uncomfortable, we just choose this kind of discomfort because we know this kind. It's like,
well, it's like self-inflicting the worst case scenario because somehow that's better than like life doing it to you. But that's assuming that life was gonna do it to you.
Right.
And who says it was going to?
So we just do it first,
Yeah, that's a great example and a good story of like what we're talking about here. But on the topic of uncomfortability, I think like the antidote to this and getting stuck in it and letting it cause more resistance in your life is to make it okay to be uncomfortable sometimes. Like that's a part of the growth process. Like I'm pretty sure a caterpillar is not very comfortable when it's becoming a butterfly. Okay, so just keeping that analogy in the back of your mind, like it's okay to be uncomfortable. So normalize that for yourself. And then the second antidote piece, I think, would be just practicing it. Like be uncomfortable more often and you'll get more comfortable in the uncomfortability.
Kels, how about this? Especially for all of my functioning anxiety folks. We are already experts at being uncomfortable. We're just pretending that we're not. We're just pretending that it's not already normal. Like, let's just stop pretending that being uncomfortable is somehow abnormal or something that we're trying to avoid. Girl, we're doing it already.
Right.
We might as well manifest our dreams while we're uncomfortable.
I like it. Yeah. Normalizing is helpful. Making it okay, giving yourself permission to be uncomfortable, very, very powerful, very helpful. And just knowing that it's a part of the growth process and there's nothing necessarily wrong because you are uncomfortable. Like 95% of the times you being uncomfortable doesn't mean there's something wrong. So I think just reminding yourself of that too can be super, super helpful. And then, Lindsay, you alluded to this a couple of times. The second thing that causes us to really get stuck in resistance is dun, 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 fear.
Yeah.
We get scared. We are scared. And it's not that there's anything wrong with fear itself, and there's nothing wrong with being in fear, right? It only becomes detrimental when it's stopping you from getting to where you want to go or going for what you want, or exactly like that perfect example that you gave from the show. Like she let her fear end her relationship when it could have been a beautiful thing. So,
well, yeah. And I think that is what it comes down to every time. There's that saying, there's only two states in life. It's either love or fear. Even anger is a form of fear. Hate is a form of fear. There's either love or there's fear. So, yeah, absolutely. If you don't have the goal, if you're feeling resistance, there is a fear. There's a fear of being unworthy. There's a fear of that's a pretty common one. There's a fear of being unworthy. There's a fear of being uncomfortable. There's a fear of actually getting the thing. And then what do? Like there's always a fear. And
right, that's a crazy fear, right? Like, what if I got everything I ever wanted and then what? Like, I've definitely had fear in the form of resistance that looks like, oh my gosh, I'm scared that if I got everything I ever wanted, I would be so bored. Right. Which nobody wants to be bored. So then I'm going to resist everything I ever wanted. It's crazy.
This is good though. This is good because consciously, what do you actually know? If you get everything you want, what do you consciously know? Then what?
I mean, then I could have a lot of ways to have fun. I don't actually think that I would actually be bored.
And
if I had a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of freedom, like I would put that to good use and do fun things. I'm not just going to sit around and be bored.
This is true for everyone breathing on the planet right now. If you got the goal, you're going to want another goal. You're never going to stop wanting goals just because you get one. Like if you get everything you want, you're going to want more. That's the nature of being a human being.
Truth.
You're never going to be bored.
More desire is guaranteed.
Especially you and I, Kels, we're very ambitious. And a lot of our listeners, I think, are very ambitious women as well. And men, I'm sorry, and men and people, just ambition all around. And I think that if you do get it, that's like the least of my worries. I am always going to be insatiable. I'm always going to want something else. The thirst will never be quenched until I'm in the ground.
Yeah. And I mean, that's something that I've written about in my last couple of books is like, The universe wants you to have what you want because when you get what you want, it leads to the growth and the expansion of the universe at large.
Yeah.
And in order to keep growing and keep expanding, you're going to keep having new desires and want more and want different and want new. And that's a beautiful part of the process that should not be resisted. Because I think we get into a trap too where we can resist our desire and make desire the enemy. Like, oh, it's wrong for me to want more. It's bad that I want this thing. It's bad for me to want more than I already have, you know. And I just don't think that's a healthy way to relate to your desire when it's a natural part of you and the expansion of the universe. Like to deny that is to deny expansion, period.
Mm-hmm.
Mic
Yeah,
drop.
it's true. And I think that is the perfect time to go to Patreon because we have 5 minutes left and I have a really good thing to talk about. I want to talk about our favorite ways to move through resistance in the Patreon.
Okay, and I'm going to tease that I will drop the third thing that causes us to go into resistance. Besides being uncomfortable and not making that okay, besides being in fear and not knowing how to deal with that, there is another one that we'll go into. But first, I want to give one final tidbit on the fear. And that's that I'm just going to read this directly from what I wrote this morning. A lot of times we make our fear mean that we are for sure headed towards danger and that we are definitely going in the wrong direction. But what we often don't realize is that so much of our fear in this day and age is just inaccurate speculation. More often than not, just because we are scared doesn't mean we have to be. How many times have you worried about something you speculated might happen in the future, only for it to never transpire and your fear was all for nothing? Exactly. We are scared.
99% of what you worry about never happens.
Yes, we are scared so much more of the time than we need to be. And that's because our subconscious mind registers anything new as potentially dangerous, blah, blah, blah. We already talked about that. But really, it's worth just looking at your fear, taking a second glance at it to make sure that you're not letting it hold you back from living your best life. So
yeah,
we're not making fear into something bad. It's just something to notice and question. Like, is this actually going to happen? Is this thing that I'm fearful probable? Like, can I just hold space for my fear and calm the part of me that's scared instead of sabotaging my life and my desires because I don't want to feel the fear?
Yeah.
Questions for you to work through when you're working.
And how much of my time am I actually afraid anyway?
Right. If I knew that I was going to be afraid no matter what I did, then what would I choose to do that I actually want to do?
Afraid of not getting it, afraid of getting it, you know. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff happening.
This was good. This was like a power activation episode.
I'm activated.
Heck yeah. Sure. Okay, sweet. So we're going to head over to the Patreon. We love you guys so much. Also, for the month of September, anyone who joins the Patreon, we're doing a little raffle. We're going to give away.
It's a big, extravagant raffle.
Big, extravagant, big deal raffle.
Big deal, big deal.
Where we are giving away a physical copy of My Pocket Guide to Manifestation, which is my newest manifesting book, which does have resistance releasing practices in it, I will add, and a month of Lindsay's membership that has all her hypnosis audios, all the magic, all the activations, all the healing, 1 month for free. So anyone who joins our Patreon at patreon.com/highvibe during the month of September will be entered to win that. Yeah. So that's the announcement for that. Anything else?
Yay.
Yay.
Nope. I got 2 minutes.
Okay. We love you guys. Have a great day. And we'll see you over at patreon.com/highvibe for the extended version of this episode. Bye-bye.
Oh, and there's already 2 bonus items in there for people that join anytime. You already get the back bonuses as well. So raffle time, bonuses, it's all good. Go join. Love ya.
Okay. Bye. Hey there, we hope you're enjoying this episode so far, but if you want to listen to the whole thing, we're going to invite you over to our podcast. Either search for Vibin It on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you guys listen to podcasts, or even better, if you want to watch the extended video version of this episode that's even longer than the actual podcast itself, head over to our Patreon at patreon.com/highvibe. Lindsay, tell them what's awesome about the Patreon.
Patreon is where we have all of our extended episodes. As Kelsey said, we have it on video, so you can actually see the things that we're talking about. Sometimes we have visual aids, and it's nice to know what we're talking about. We also have hangouts that we do sometimes that are exclusive to Patreon people. And you can get started with all of this and bonus content and everything that we have only for the Patreon people for as little as $3. I think it's $3.33 a month. And that's it. And you guys can get all the benefits and all access to everything that we put in there. Really cool.
It's really cool, really fun, super easy to join. And you guys don't even have to do that to finish this episode. If you're like, screw it, I don't want to pay any money, I just want to hear the rest of this episode, go to our podcast, Hi Vibin It, search for it wherever you listen. It's totally free. Either way, enjoy the rest of the show wherever you choose to enjoy it. And we will see you guys next week because we do a new one every week. Adios.
Bye.